Picture this. You're sitting in a slightly too warm conference room, or maybe you're staring at your own webcam reflection on a Zoom call.
Oh, the worst.
Right. Your palms are sweating, your heart rate is spiking, and the person across from you asks a question as simple as, "Tell me about yourself."
And then total panic sets in.
Exactly. Suddenly, your brain, which normally
Mhm.
contains decades of professional experience and coherent thoughts, it just completely flatlines. You experience a total system failure. The words just evaporate.
It's wild how that happened.
It is. And, why does a completely normal professional conversation suddenly trigger the exact same physiological response as, being chased by a predator?
Well, it's the classic amygdala hijack. I mean, your brain perceives a high-stakes social evaluation as a literal survival threat.
Which is intense.
Right, but what's fascinating here is that we treat these interactions like they're just spontaneous, casual chats when they absolutely are not.
Yeah, they're not at all.
No, they are highly structured, artificial interactions. And because we treat them as spontaneous, we just walk in completely unprepared for the actual architecture of the conversation.
Right. We prep the facts, we memorize our resume, but we don't prep the structure.
Exactly.
And so whether you are, gearing up for a massive corporate transition or trying to pivot careers, or if you're just insanely curious about the weird psychological quirks of human communication, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
Today we are dissecting the anatomy of the perfect interview answer. And our grounding material today comes from a really interesting place. It's a transcript from the English Leap podcast, which is part of the Speak English with Class curriculum.
Which I know might sound incredibly niche at first glance.
Yeah, totally.
Because the original target audience for this material was B1 to B2 level English learners, people actively studying how to navigate professional corporate settings in a second language.
But when you actually read through their framework, you realize something pretty profound. By stripping communication down to its absolute core mechanics for language learners, they kind of accidentally wrote a masterclass in human psychology.
They really did.
And it applies to everyone. Native speakers, seasoned executives, absolutely everyone. They essentially prove that interview anxiety, the deer in headlights freeze response, is rarely a vocabulary problem.
Or a lack of experience, for that matter.
Right. It is almost entirely a structural problem. Okay, let's unpack this. The core philosophy we're looking at today is that we don't need to invent some, fake robotic corporate persona to succeed. We just need to understand how to give our thoughts a recognizable shape.
Yeah, and we have to start by addressing the cognitive overload that happens in that room.
The panic.
The panic, exactly. Because when an interviewer asks a broad question, the candidate's brain tries to process their entire life history simultaneously. Right, it's a traffic jam of data. And the curriculum we're analyzing points out a crucial misconception here. Interviewers are not sitting there grading you like a strict teacher with a red pen.
Right, they're not checking your grammar.
No. If you pause, or if you use a really simple sentence structure, that doesn't cost you the job. What costs you the job is freezing completely or rambling aimlessly for 3 minutes because you just don't know how to hit the brakes.
I do want to push back on that a little bit, though.
Sure.
Because it's really easy to say, oh, just don't worry about being perfect. But in high-stakes environments like, say, high finance or competitive tech roles, surely the exact words matter.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, you can't just stumble blindly through an answer even if you're trying to stay calm. A pause can be interpreted as weakness or, lack of confidence, doesn't it?
I mean, in certain hyper-aggressive cultures, perhaps a really long pause is penalized. But even then, the content itself, like the raw data of your experience, is only as good as its delivery mechanism.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because flawless linguistic perfection is an impossible standard, especially under stress. What the interviewer is actually evaluating is your baseline executive function.
Meaning, can you hold it together?
Exactly. Can you organize chaos under pressure, freezing or rambling signals that you can't? But a calculated pause, followed by a structured, simple sentence that signals that you are in control of your cognitive faculties.
Right.
The words are just raw materials. The shape you put them in is what makes them usable for the person listening.
That distinction between raw material and shape is so crucial. It's like packing a suitcase for a long trip.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah, if you just take all your clothes, even if they're perfectly tailored, super expensive clothes, and you just throw them randomly into the bag, the suitcase won't close.
Things are sticking out everywhere.
Right, the zipper breaks. It's not that you chose the wrong clothes.
Yeah.
Your experience is fine. You just didn't fold them into the right shape to fit the container of the interview question.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that analogy perfectly captures why this framework is so effective. It takes this terrifying interrogation and reframes it as a simple exercise in formatting.
You're just folding clothes.
Yes. You aren't defending your worth as a human being. You are just folding your clothes so they fit the suitcase. It significantly lowers the emotional temperature of the room.
It really does. So let's put that shape theory to the ultimate test. Let's look at the most ambiguous, panic-inducing prompt of them all.
Tell me about yourself.
Exactly. Tell me about yourself.
It's the ultimate blank canvas. And from a psychological standpoint, humans experience what's called the ambiguity effect.
Which is what?
We basically hate lacking parameters.
Yeah.
Without constraints, our brains just panic.
And the material we're looking at has this highly relatable, kind of hilarious example of a candidate who just completely misinterprets the assignment.
Oh, the stamp collector.
Yes. They start listing where they grew up, how many siblings they have, their hobbies, how they feel about Mondays, and yeah, that they collect stamps.
It's funny, but it happens.
It sounds absurd when we say it out loud, but I have absolutely seen highly competent professionals do a version of this.
Oh, all the time.
Like, they don't talk about their childhood, but they will chronologically recite their entire 15-year resume, month by month, until the interviewer's eyes literally glaze over.
Because they think the question is a request for a data dump.
Right.
But it isn't. The interviewer has your resume. They already know the timeline. This question is actually a silent test of relevance filtering.
Relevance filtering. I like that.
Yeah. Can you step outside of your own ego, understand what the person across the table actually needs to know right now, and summarize it concisely? They are testing your situational awareness.
So how do we fold this particular shirt? What is the actual shape that prevents the data dump?
So the framework provides a very strict three-part constraint.
Okay.
First, state who you are professionally right now. Second, highlight one specific relevant skill or past experience that anchors your identity. Just one. And third, explain exactly what you were looking for in this next step. That's it.
Present, past anchor, future trajectory.
Exactly.
I love how tight that is. So instead of a 5-minute monologue about your career journey since 2012, it sounds more like, I'm a senior project manager with a focus on software deployment. I spent the last 3 years leading agile teams to launch consumer-facing apps, and now I'm looking for a role where I can scale those processes across a larger enterprise.
Notice how that completely changes the dynamic in the room.
It's so clean.
It's clean, it's bounded, and it answers the hidden question underneath the spoken prompt. They asked about you, but they really wanted to know, are you focused and are you relevant to my current problem?
Which brings us directly to the next psychological landmine, the motivation question.
Ah, yes. Why do you want this job?
Right, and the material points out this hilarious, brutally honest candidate instinct. The instinct is to just say, because rent exists, and it's very persistent.
And that instinct is undeniably true. Rent is persistent, mortgages are expensive, groceries cost money. The interviewer knows this.
Of course they do.
But stating the obvious violates the unspoken social contract of the interview.
See, this is where I always get tripped up, though.
How so?
Because, like, why do we have to play this theatrical game? Why do we have to pretend we're just dying to work at a mid-level B2B logistics company out of the pure passion of our hearts?
It feels fake.
It feels so disingenuous. Doesn't the interviewer know we are all there for a paycheck?
Well, it feels disingenuous if you view it as a demand for fake passion. But that's not what a good interviewer is looking for.
Really?
No, they aren't testing your passion for logistics. They are testing your decision-making process. The real question underneath is, did you choose this specific job, or are you just blindly firing your resume at every Apply Now button on the internet?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they want to know if you possess the critical thinking to evaluate a company and see how your skills align with their goals. Ah, okay, so it's not a passion test, it's an alignment test.
Precisely.
You don't have to lie and pretend money doesn't matter. You just have to aim your honesty. The framework uses a brilliant mantra for this. Same truth, better direction.
Exactly. You are still seeking the job for personal gain. You want the paycheck and the stability, but you direct the focus toward how your personal goals align with their corporate needs.
That's right.
So you say, I'm interested in this position because the scope matches my experience in logistics, and it gives me a chance to take on more complex supply chain challenges in a respected company.
Same truth, better direction. You aren't inventing a fake persona. You're just pointing your very real ambition at their specific company.
It's all about focus.
That completely changes how I view that question. So once we've established our motivation, the interview usually pivots to testing our self-awareness. It's time for the dreaded strengths and weaknesses.
This is a fascinating psychological pivot because candidates tend to swing wildly between two extremes.
Oh, absolutely. They either become super defensive and arrogant, or they become entirely self-defeating and confessional.
Let's look at the arrogant side first. The strengths. The natural human instinct, especially when we feel evaluated, is to build a wall of armor. We just fire off a massive list.
Just everything we can think of.
Right. I'm a great communicator. I'm highly organized. I work well under pressure. I'm a natural leader. I'm a team player. We just throw 10 adjectives at the wall, hoping one of them happens to be what the interviewer is looking for.
And that instinct is actively self-sabotaging, mostly due to the limits of human working memory.
How do you mean?
Well, an interviewer is likely talking to 5, maybe 10 candidates in a week. They are experiencing massive cognitive fatigue. If you list 7 generic strengths, you blur into the background noise.
You're just another buzzword.
Right. It sounds unfocused, and frankly, it sounds insecure. Like you don't actually know what your primary value is. The framework insists on trading quantity for depth.
Depth over quantity.
Yeah. Pick 1, maybe 2, undeniable strengths that directly solve a problem for the job you are applying for.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's not enough to just narrow it down to one strength. The curriculum introduces this concept of a claim and a proof.
Yes, the claim and proof.
I think this is the most powerful takeaway so far. Because if you just sit there and say, I'm highly organized, that is just a claim. It's empty air. Anyone can say it.
A claim without proof is essentially useless data. From a cognitive perspective, the human brain doesn't retain abstract claims. It retains narratives. It retains imagery.
Right. So you have to anchor it. Instead of just claiming you're organized, you prove it in the very next breath.
Give an example.
Yeah, you say, one of my core strengths is organization. In my last role, I built a tracking system that reduced our project turnaround time by 15% because nothing was falling through the cracks.
See, you've just given the interviewer a mental movie. They can visualize you building a system. They can see the result.
It's concrete.
You didn't just name a skill. You provided empirical evidence of it in action. That is what sticks in their memory long after you've left the room.
But what happens when we flip the script to the weakness question? This is the one that universally gives people nightmares.
The hardest question in the room.
The instinct is to either give a fake weakness, like the classic, oh, I just care too much and work too hard, or, to be way too honest and confess something terrifying.
Let's explore why both of those fail. The I work too hard cliché is an eye-roll moment for any experienced interviewer.
It really is.
It's a disguised flex. It signals that you lack genuine self-reflection, or worse, that you think an interviewer is easily manipulated.
Which is insulting.
Right. On the flip side, extreme, unvarnished honesty like confessing you buckle under pressure or constantly miss deadlines is a massive red flag. Because an interview is essentially a risk assessment exercise.
So if it's a risk assessment, how do we answer honestly without confirming that we are a massive risk?
This raises an important question about what they are actually looking for. They don't expect a flawless robot.
Nobody's perfect.
Exactly. When an interviewer asks about your weakness, they are checking for 2 specific indicators: self-awareness and self-regulation.
Self-awareness and self-regulation.
Do you know where your blind spots are? And are you actively building systems to mitigate them?
The framework we're studying suggests a specific pivot here. You take a real weakness, but you frame it as a trajectory of improvement.
Yes.
Like, for example, the source has this alarming example where someone admits, I once forgot a client's name mid-call and panicked.
Which is very honest, but maybe too alarming.
Right. So instead of saying, I'm terrible at public speaking and I panic, you say, I've historically found high-stakes presentations challenging. To manage this, I've started heavily outlining my points a week in advance and doing dry runs with a colleague, which has made me significantly more confident.
That is the perfect balance. You acknowledge a genuine vulnerability, presentations are challenging, but you immediately pair it with a proactive solution.
You're fixing it.
Exactly. You are demonstrating to the interviewer that when you encounter a deficit in your own skills, you don't hide it and you don't wallow in it. You fix it. You've just turned a question about your flaws into a demonstration of your problem-solving ability.
It takes all the fear right out of the room. It's not a confession booth. It's a strategy session about your professional growth.
I love that framing.
But even if you nail that,
Yeah.
you eventually have to pivot back to closing the deal. You have to answer, why should we hire you?
This is the climax, and it's where candidates often unravel because it feels like a trap.
It really does.
It feels like you are being forced to declare yourself the absolute best person in the universe for the job, which you can't possibly know.
Exactly. It makes you want to either brag uncontrollably with empty buzzwords or completely diminish your leverage and just beg, like, please, I really need this.
The material offers a brilliant structural solution here called the safe middle. The strategy is confidence backed by reasons, not confidence instead of reasons.
Wait, I need to push you on that. What is the practical difference between confidence backed by reasons and just plain confidence? Aren't they kind of the same vibe?
Not at all. Confidence instead of reasons sounds like, you should hire me because I'm a rock star, I'm a hustler, I'll outwork everyone here.
Okay, yeah, that's a bit much.
It's pure ego. It's loud, but it's hollow. Confidence backed by reasons connects the dots between your past reality and their future needs.
How does that sound in practice?
It sounds like, based on our conversation today, it sounds like you need someone who can immediately streamline your onboarding process. Because I spent the last 2 years doing exactly that at my previous company, I know I can bring that same efficiency here.
Oh, I see. It shifts the dynamic entirely. It moves the conversation away from please pick me to here's the reciprocal value I bring to the table. You are pitching yourself as a solution to their headache.
Precisely. And just when you think you've successfully navigated the entire gauntlet, they hit you with the final, seemingly throwaway question. Do you have any questions for us?
Which is where so many candidates make a massive unforced error.
Huge mistake.
Because after an hour of intense cognitive load, your brain is just fried. You just want to escape the room.
Yeah.
The overwhelming instinct is to smile politely and say, nope, you've been incredibly thorough, I'm good.
Because you think you are being an easy, low-maintenance candidate.
Right.
But from a psychological standpoint, particularly through the lens of signaling theory, saying you have no questions is catastrophic.
Catastrophic, wow.
To the interviewer, no questions does not signal low maintenance, it signals low engagement.
Because if you were genuinely picturing yourself spending 40, 50 hours a week inside this company, your brain would naturally be generating questions about what that reality looks like.
Of course it would.
If you have no questions, it proves you haven't mentally placed yourself in the role yet.
Exactly. It is a final test of your curiosity and your critical thinking. If you don't evaluate them, it looks like you are desperate to take anything.
So we need to have questions preloaded.
Oh.
And they shouldn't be about vacation days or lunch breaks.
No, definitely not at this stage.
They should be focused on the reality of the work. The source gives some great actionable advice here. Things like, can you tell me more about the dynamic of the team I'd be working with? Or, what is the most immediate challenge the person in this role needs to solve in the first 90 days?
Those are fantastic.
Or even simply asking about the next steps in their timeline.
Those questions show that you are already acting like an employee. You are visualizing the daily operations and the immediate goals. It ends the interview on a note of active partnership rather than passive submission.
To really synthesize all these psychological reframes, the material ends with this rapid-fire section called the Say It Better Translation Matrix.
This is great.
And it is arguably the most practical part of the whole framework. It takes raw, unpolished honesty and translates it into professional signaling without crossing the line into lying.
It's an exercise in cognitive reframing. Shifting from a fixed mindset statement, which feels like a dead end to an interviewer, to a growth mindset statement, which shows potential. Let's run through a few. Give me the raw, unfiltered candidate thought.
All right, challenge accepted. Let's do some role play.
Yeah.
Here is a very raw, very real thought someone might have in an interview. I don't know how to use your proprietary software.
Okay, so the fixed mindset says exactly that, which just highlights a deficit. The growth mindset translation is, I haven't had the opportunity to work with that specific software yet, but I have a strong track record of picking up new systems quickly, like when I learned this other system in my last role.
Nice. You don't hide the gap, but you bridge it with past evidence of your adaptability.
Exactly.
Okay, how about a behavioral one? I get really nervous and anxious during these interviews.
Translation. One area I'm actively working on is my confidence in high-stakes meetings. I've been improving this by heavily preparing my talking points in advance.
That's so much better.
You acknowledge the human feeling, but frame it as an ongoing process of improvement rather than a permanent character flaw.
Okay, here's a dangerous one. My last boss was toxic, and the job was a nightmare.
Oh, never, ever say that. It triggers the interviewer's threat response because they don't know if you were the actual toxic element.
Right.
The translation is, I'm looking for a new environment that aligns better with my long-term goals, where I can take on more collaborative responsibility. You focus entirely on the forward momentum, not the past grievance.
Focus on the future. I love that. Last one, a pure logistics question. I'm unemployed, so I can start literally anytime.
Translation. I am available to start immediately, and I'm happy to discuss a timeline that works best for your onboarding schedule.
Because saying anytime can sound desperate.
It can sound overly desperate, yeah. The translation shows eagerness but maintains a level of professional parity. You are a peer negotiating a start date, not a beggar taking scraps.
Listening to those translations, it reminds me of adjusting the lighting in a photograph.
How do you mean?
Like if you take a photo of someone with harsh, direct fluorescent light from above, it highlights every flaw, every shadow. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
But if you adjust the lighting to be soft and angled, the photo looks incredible.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You didn't Photoshop the subject. You didn't change the truth of who they are. You just presented the exact same reality in a light that flatters it best.
That is a phenomenal way to conceptualize it. You are not faking a persona. You are curating your truth. You are putting the best lighting on your actual lived experience.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of this deep dive. Same truth, better shape.
Better shape.
Whether you are an English learner navigating the corporate world in a second language, or a native speaker trying to land a promotion, the anxiety of being evaluated isn't conquered by memorizing a script.
No, not at all.
It's conquered by taking your genuine, messy, honest self and organizing it into an architecture that the other person's brain can easily digest. You're just packing the suitcase so it closes.
And the beauty of that architecture is that it dramatically reduces your cognitive load. You aren't desperately searching for the right words in the moment while your cortisol is spiking. You are just dropping your authentic experiences into a framework you already trust.
So what does this all mean? We've spent this entire time talking about job interviews, but the underlying psychology here bleeds into almost every facet of our lives.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
I mean, if an interview is ultimately just a high-stakes test of how well we package our raw honesty, it forces us to look at how we communicate outside the conference room.
In our regular lives.
Think about your daily life when we are arguing with a spouse or when we have to give difficult, painful feedback to a close friend. Are we just blurting out the raw truth?
Are we just screaming that rent exists and expecting them to deal with the emotional fallout?
Exactly. Or are we taking the time, the empathy, and the care to give our honesty a better shape?
Wow. We owe the people we love the same structural care we give to a hiring manager.
We really do.
That is definitely something for you to mull over the next time you need to tell someone an uncomfortable truth. How can you deliver the exact same reality, but with a better direction? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you take these frameworks and keep leaping forward in your own communication journeys, whether you're sitting across from a CEO or just sitting across the kitchen table. We'll catch you next time.